Namaskaram, sir.
Yeah, that's good.
Sir, is there any cultural link with ancient China or that region?
Yes, that is exactly today we have seen that Tritsama and Shushartu and Shwetya. These are the northern tributaries of Sindhu River, and they are access gateways into the Chinese territory. Not only China, but Central Asia and China, both of the Xinjiang territory of China. Just like Kubha River is for the Afghanistan. And as I mentioned, like this archaeological analysis of Chinese civilization and Indian, that is Indian civilization means Indus Valley civilization, is that there is a exchange of artifacts. So there are some artifacts, Chinese artifacts found in IBC, and some IBC artifacts found in Chinese territories. Means there was an ancient trade, and if the kind of dates that is coming is like 2500 BC, 1900 BC, etc. There was a kind of a trade connection. So when we map it to our period, then except in the early Ṛgvedic period, starting with the middle Ṛgvedic period, and it intensified in the late Ṛgvedic period, that there was a give and take between the Chinese civilization. And then in the Mahabharata, it is plenty, like because in Mahabharata, China itself is mentioned in Mahabharata, China, like that. Not only once, but multiple times, China is mentioned. And the kind of goods that is coming from China to India is also mentioned as a kambala, that is woolen clothes, and silk also. So those kind of clothes, primarily, I think the clothes might have come here, woolen clothes and silk clothes. They are mentioned directly in the Mahabharata. And in fact, it is mentioned that the China tribe gave it as a tribute to Yudhishthira during Rajasuya. So that much close it is. So when Yudhishthira became the emperor of Bharatavarsha, the China, from there also tributes came. And those tributes were Kambala, that is woolen clothes and silk clothes, etc. So as far as Mahabharata is concerned, it is huge amount of information about China is there in the Mahabharata, and then the kind of trade goods also which were coming from China to Bharata is indirectly referred mentioned in that Yudhishthira's Rajasuya sacrifice, in that tribute from China, like that this is mentioned. Uh, there is question. Are there any evidence mentioned in Rigveda, like main focus we are on is in rivers? Are there any others? Like I think if I take it the questions correctly, is there any other information in Rigveda? Yes. In fact, the mention of rivers is very rare information, but of course, our focus of research is river, so we have taken the river. But it also mentioned about like chariot, for example. A lot of information about what are the woods, what are the trees which are cut for creating a chariot. So those kinds of information, some other people are studying about those kind of information. That is construction of a chariot. So using that information, you can actually reconstruct a Rigvedic chariot because it mentions about the wood type of wood that is being used, that the kind of trees that is cut for creating the chariot, and also different components of the chariot is mentioned. So chariot technology is something that you can study using Rigveda. And of course, it mentions huge number of plants, and then many animals it also mentioned. That is the animals which are actually born in the area where the Rigveda is authored. So Srikant Talagiri's books, if you look at, he mentioned that look at the animals that is mentioned. So only in India you can author Rigveda because it is not the animal, the flora and fauna profile doesn't match with Central Asia or with Iran or Europe. The trees and plants and animals mentioned in the Rigveda clearly indicate that the location in which the Rigveda is authored is in the northwestern India. Not only that, the early Rigvedic flora and fauna, the plants and animals mentioned in the early Rigveda are somewhat in the eastern side, that is Ganga Valley, like elephants, etc., are mentioned in the early Rigvedic period. And in the late Ṛgvedic period, you may get mention of Ushtra, that is camel. So again, is something similar to the river, like the sequence of river, sequence of discovery of rivers in the Ṛgveda, in the early Ṛgveda to middle Ṛgveda to late Ṛgveda. Same pattern is followed for animals. So in the early Ṛgveda, you will see animals which are deeper into the eastern part of India, like in the Ganga basin, like elephants. And in the middle Ṛgveda, more or less, you can get animals living in Ganga region to in the Punjab region, etc. And in the late Ṛgvedic period, when our Ṛgvedic people even crossed beyond Afghanistan border into the Afghanistan, etc., then you see mention about Ushtra, that is camel. And there is no single mention of camel in the early Ṛgveda, whereas there is plenty of mention of camel in the late Ṛgvedic literature, late Ṛgvedic mandalas. So of course, these are all mentioned in the Ṛgveda. So rivers are just 1%, maybe 5% of what is the Ṛgveda, but it mentioned about animals, it mentioned about plants, it mentioned about chariot technology, and it even mentioned about ship and sea navigation. That we will that's a chapter of we will separately see it in subsequent sessions. It mentioned about sea. It mentioned about ships. It's mentioned about boats and floods, rescue from flood. All these things are mentioned in some diseases and cure for diseases are mentioned. Maruts are mentioned as bringers of medicine. And I think I referred that in Maruti, that is in Ramayana, the same Ṛgvedic concept is replicated in the Ramayana, where Maruti brings the medicine. That is Hanuman brings medicine for Lakshmana and Rama. Whereas in Ṛgveda, it is the Maruts who brings medicines and help the people who are sick. So that medicine is mentioned. Soma is mentioned. So Soma is itself a special kind of drink, the stimulant drink, the opposite of an alcohol. And so a lot of research is going on the Soma itself. To first of all, identifying the exact plant or the exact ingredient of Soma and try to recreate it. All these studies are going on, and of course, in various degrees of success, etc. Some of the secret ingredient is what people are now doubting, like some mushrooms, etc. But it's that is again going on, and so many other medicines are mentioned in the Ṛgveda. And it has astronomical riddles like Kala Chakra. That is, we get some kind of inference that the Ṛgvedic people know about the precision of equinox, because there are some cryptic suktas, like the riddle of the Tamas, like that, somewhere in the middle Ṛgvedic period, which slightly hints about the Kala Chakra or the time clock, the sky clock, whereas the sky and the motion of the sun is used to understand the motion, the flow of time. That is the days, months, years, and something bigger than the years, like that is the great year or the precision of equinox, the full cycle of the precision, that is 26,000 years. Those are all mentioned in the Ṛgveda.
Okay, sir. So let's wind up this session with a Shanti Mantra. Om Lokaah Samastaah Sukhino Bhavantu. Lokaah Samastaah Sukhino Bhavantu. Lokaah Samastaah Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.